coaches. Defensive end Micheal Bennett has been suspended for conduct detrimental to the team after he had a disagreement with his defensive line coach on Friday. As a result, Bennett will miss Monday's matchup against the Jets. See, how surprising is it to see the turmoil within the Patriots organization? Because if it exists, we don't usually hear about it.
Oh, no, it exists, though. I mean, they got some edgy players. They got some players with an attitude who they've been able to coach up and bring out the best in them. Typically, it's about sacrificing about the team. Micheal Bennett, he's an accomplished player. He has everything that you would want in a player. He's got Super Bowl championships. He's got Pro Bowls. He's made good money. He's had a long career. He has been a good player. So is he willing to sacrifice? When he went to New England, he was a different state in his career than most players. Most players like him have either some type of attitude problem, they haven't won, or you haven't gotten the best out of it. I believe that we've seen the best out of him with Pete Carroll. We saw him in Philadelphia still be an elite football player. But in New England, is he willing to sacrifice, which the defensive linemen there, they don't allow them to rush the passer as much as eat up blockers and allow the linebackers and the outside defensive ends to be able to get the sacks. Now, is he about that? I believe there's a number of philosophy differences. And Bret Bielema, he's a different guy. So I'm not surprised that who the exchange was with. I would have been shocked if you said, man, Bennett got into an altercation with Belichick. No, but Bret, I would understand that. He's got a little past history where he had a hard time dealing with people. He wore out his welcome at Wisconsin. He could have coached at Wisconsin for 20 straight years. That big offensive line run the ball, but there's some personal things there, so I'm not surprised at all. Every once in a while, they have these things in New England, just like other places.
I think the biggest surprise here is that it's a suspension and not an outright release, given the reports of what happened on Friday. And I know, Chris, we talked before the show, the Patriots don't like, he's a vested veteran, his contract then is guaranteed for the season, so if you outright release him, you're just eating the rest of that money. I would imagine that if this is something that continues, they might wait for the outright release, or they might wait to move on from him until after the trade deadline, because if you cut him right now, any team can grab him. And he is still a very good player. Maybe the Patriot fit isn't great right now, and certainly the relationship fit. We talked with Michael about going to the Patriots. The only real question I had was, and we didn't bring it up, was Bret Bielema. Because I know Micheal Bennett a little bit personally and a lot from just reading about him and his brother. And I feel like I know enough about Bret Bielema that that's oil and water, and that's not surprising to me that that came to a head. But if they would have cut him, then the Chiefs or the Texans or the Ravens, anyone could sign him. If it's after the trade deadline, he has to pass through waivers. The worst teams in the league get the first bite at the apple, and the Patriots wouldn't have to worry about facing him potentially in the postseason. But he's frustrated that, I think it's what Chris said, you are asked to hold up blockers so other guys can go do their job. Your job is not the most glorifying one. And he played 11 snaps on Thursday night. And probably 11 snaps in a game that going into it, he's thinking, oh, I can get me a couple sacks. This Giants offensive line, that rookie quarterback, and instead Chase Winovich, the rookie out of Michigan, has got 4 sacks on the year. So he's frustrated with, I don't think the New England experience has been exactly what he thought it would be.
No, they're highlighting on the defense Jamie Collins. He came over from Cleveland. He's having an amazing year. Dante Hightower, anytime he's healthy, he's going to be highlighted on that defense. Cal Van Noy coming off the outside, and then you mentioned the rookie. Those are their primary 4 rush guys that they are depending on to get pressure. Now, is his minutes? Because he's not a nose tackle. He is not a 280, 300-pounder can play over the center and over both guards. He's a guy that's got to play on the edge, and those 4 guys typically are on the edge. Jamie Collins plays more in the middle, though.
And so if they can get past this, he has as much raw talent as anyone in their front 7. Would you agree? Like, the only guys that would be close would be maybe Jamie Collins or Dante Hightower, but of their D linemen, when we were discussing how good this Patriots defense could be last week, one of the points you made, I think it's a good one, is they don't have elite talent on their defensive line. Elite talent in corner and Stephon Gilmore, and in the linebacking core. The one guy who does have, to me, elite talent on the D line is Micheal Bennett.
He played 11 snaps last week.
Well, right, because that's the situational fit. And the Patriots are not going to bend that for anyone. The Patriots are not going to change what they do, particularly defensively, particularly when they are on a historic pace defensively.
If it doesn't match up with what they need.
To placate a player, and he's not a guy that his history says he's just going to shut up. His history says he is going to voice his displeasure if he is displeased.
And knowing that it's a 1-game suspension, it's not one altercation. There have been some problems there. And this right here, when you have to take a player away from a week, because you also hurt the team. You hurt that defensive line room. You hurt the linebackers and their overall productivity. So Belichick has been known to do some things in spite of what's best for the team. He did bench his best corner in the Super Bowl, and they did lose that game. So this is not that surprising to me.
All right, let's break there. Coming up, why is Jerry Jones talking about Jay? They picked up all-pro cornerback Marcus Peters from the Rams. That for a 5th-round pick and for linebacker Kenny Young. Baltimore's been dealing with injuries in their secondary, so they actually plan on playing Peters this Sunday against Seattle. CC, are the Ravens now the biggest threat to the Patriots in the AFC?
I wouldn't call them the biggest threat, but it is a need position. Jimmy Smith, their best corner, he's got a sprained MCL, so he looks to come off for injured reserve in a couple weeks. So they will have bookend corners. Marlon Humphrey, the 1st-round pick a couple years ago from Alabama, is playing phenomenal, but they've been inconsistent as far as who the other corner is. Their nickelback, your buddy, Brandon Carr, has been playing fabulous, but they've had 2 safeties injured and a corner injured. So it's a need for them. Baltimore, we went over the stats the last 20 years. They've been one of the top defenses. They have a defensive mentality. When he arrives in the building, he's a guy from Oakland, and Oakland is a lot like Baltimore. I feel he's going to be very, very happy with the culture there, the ownership there, Harbaugh, the way he coaches, their defensive coordinator, the way he allows their defense to be able to play a variety of different things. So he should be very, very excited after being traded 2 times in the last 20 months.
I don't know if it makes them the biggest competition in New England. I do think they already are going to present something to New England that's unique to any team in the league because of the mobility of their quarterback and not only their ability this year to play great defense, but to Chris's point, their history of great defense and one of the only teams in the NFL whose head coach can walk into a meeting during the playoffs and say, I have won in New England. I can tell you guys what it's going to be like and how to walk out of here successfully. So in all that, the Ravens already presented a unique challenge. I'm very curious what Marcus Peters they're going to get. Yeah. Marcus Peters was drafted by my hometown team Chiefs. And was traded by my hometown team, and I was beside myself when they did it. Through 3 years in the league, he had allowed a 65 passer rating and had 19 interceptions in 45 games with Kansas City. Now, he had disputes with coaches. Ownership didn't love him, but he was an exceptional player those 3 years in Kansas City. A year and a half in Los Angeles, it's been a different story. A 65 passer rating allowed in Kansas City, a 100 passer rating allowed in Los Angeles when targeted. 19 interceptions in 45 games in Kansas City, 5 interceptions in 22 with the Rams. So what version of Marcus Peters are the Ravens getting? If he can tap back into what he was doing before he got to Los Angeles, he's an all-pro level corner. He was an all-pro corner early in his career. I don't know where it went wrong in L.A. because he had to leave across from him. You have Aaron Donald, you've got Wade Phillips. It just never clicked for him there, so it's not shocking that the Rams moved off him.
Do you think this will be a bit of a wake-up call for Marcus Peters, and maybe Harbaugh thinks he could do something more with him there, and that you talk about a better culture in that Ravens locker room, in that environment?
It's a different one than the one in Los Angeles. Who Les Snead is, who Sean McVay is, they're very, very different. Very nice guys. Les Snead, very clean cut. Baltimore's a rugged. They play to their fan base. They play to the way the team was made up with Ray Lewis. And I mean, they are trying to shut teams down. And I believe the way Harbaugh approaches players, Ozzie Newsome, he's still there as their general manager. They have a lot more players like Marcus Peterson in Baltimore. So I do believe he'll be a great fit in that locker room. Different coaches have different styles. The style in Los Angeles and what they're trying to do is totally different than what they're trying to do in Baltimore. Baltimore, it's about the players. It's about the culture. They have a great defensive culture when you go into the building. It's up to them, because the reason why he's been a different player is because he hadn't gotten better, Nick. A lot of young players have success early in this league, but they can't sustain it. The difference between the good and the great, how long can you stay in your prime? How long can you be an elite player? How long can you be a Pro Bowler? How long can you be an all-pro player? His technique has gotten bad. He's not good in man, or he's not good in zone right now. So at least In Kansas City, he was great at man-to-man.
Yep.
He didn't like playing a lot of zone, so he has to be able to work on himself, and that's what they're hoping in Baltimore. They can bring out the best in Marcus Peters.
And to your question about a wake-up call, you would hope so, because since he came into the league, he has 24 interceptions. No one else has more than 16, and he is on his third team and still playing on his rookie deal. So that level of production, even though with the last year and a half with the Rams was not very good, has not gotten a contract extension and has now been traded twice. Despite 24 picks in 4.5 years, that does speak to something that has been off with him. So you would hope he gets it right in Baltimore.
Yeah, take a look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the organization. Take a look in the mirror.
All right, we talked about whether the Ravens can keep pat with the Patriots. Speaking of New England, the Patriot way apparently